Hudson Valley Knits. This is episode 58, part 2, which is the second half of my trip to Vogue Knitting Live. This is essentially Saturday, although I did leave out a lot from Friday because I ran out of time. I didn't want it to be more than 45 minutes. And I think part 1 is ending up being a little more than 45 minutes. So I'll show you a little bit more of the stash I bought Friday. I'll talk about dinner at Junior's, which was a lot of fun. And Junior's is a famous restaurant right in Times Square. It actually has loads of locations, but anyway, if you haven't watched part 1, watch part 1 first. In part 1, I go over basic Hudson Valley Knits announcements. I announce winners to the 2015 goals contest. So find out if you're a winner, you have to watch part 1 first. And I talk about my knitting belt class. And you can't see it, but right now I am knitting with my knitting belts. I got some practice stuff on. I'm practicing knitting in the round. In the class we were knitting flat, but here I am knitting in the round with my knitting belt. I'm going to put this in the belt now. Okay, if I go down a little bit, you can see? You can see, see, I'm tempted to leave it like this. That's how excited I am about knitting with the knitting belt. Let me just show you this is a purl stitch, so I'm going over the needle. That's how you help get rid of a gap, by the way. And the first one, actually, you're not supposed to take your hand off the needle that's in the belt. And you just kind of take the left needle, see, I'm getting sidetracked, and go like that. It really is, once you get it, it's so addictive. Anyway, I'll be doing this while I talk to you, of course, except for when I'm showing you stuff. So today I'm going to go over Saturday. Let me get this back up here. I am officially addicted to this belt knitting, by the way. Saturday I had an all-day class with Mary Jane Mucklestone called Fresh Fair Isle. I took it mostly because she was going to go through some color theory thing. I've done a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. I love Fair Isle knitting. It's easily my favorite knitting technique, because, if you consider like cables or twisted stitches or anything like that, Fair Isle is my favorite. I love knitting Fair Isle projects. And I wanted to be able to, I have her stitch dictionary for Fair Isle, and I wanted to be able to mix up the patterns with my own, colors. Right now I have a small sampling of Jameson colors and DK and fingering weights. And what I wanted to do, I also have a ton of palette yarns from Knit Picks, which is a pretty good yarn for knitting color work. It's officially not Fair Isle. So back to that. What the class went over is she started out talking a little bit about the rules of Fair Isle knitting, and she was very firm about sticking to the rules of Fair Isle and how it has to be Shetland wool from Shetland sheep that are on the Shetland Islands. She talked a little bit about the two main manufacturers, Jamieson and Smith and Jamieson, and how one, which I believe is Jamieson and Smith, is 90% pure Shetland Island Shetland wool, whereas there are other breeds on the Shetland Islands, and Jamieson mixes more of the other breeds. And she said that you can kind of feel the difference between the two yarns. She talked about a little bit of the history of Fair Isle knitting, and about the island of Fair Isle. She talked about different ways to hold your two colors. She just really went very thoroughly into techniques and history in the morning. And then she talked about color work. She talked about, prairie knitting and using big patterns and what the difference is and what qualifies, something as Fair Isle. They had to be symmetrical, no more than two colors on one line. And the reason was that these women, had to be thrifty, and they didn't waste an ounce of wool for anything. So without teaching you the whole class, that's pretty much what the morning was about. I really found it very interesting. I love reading about knitting history, and I have a lot of books about Fair Isle, about Ganseys, about all kinds of historical knitting. And I just really find that if you're in the U.S. and you want to have a good if you want a good online store to buy a lot of great historical books about knitting, is Schoolhouse Press. I also recommend Donna Dracunis, who is an amazing writer about historical knitting. I think Schoolhouse Press also sells some of her books, including the one that I just bought called Lithuanian Knitting. Anyway, back to the class. The second half of the class in the afternoon was about the color theory and then knitting up our swatches. So what she had us do was line up our darker colors. We learned about tones of the yarns, and what that is, the difference between that and tint and that sort of thing. So we learned how to separate our dark tonal yarns and our light tonal yarns, and then we chose how we were going to pair them up. And she gave us a pattern to knit up for a wristlet, and we all kind of paired up our yarns. She helped us pick colors and decide what would go good together. If we had questions, she walked around and helped us with our knitting as we were knitting up our wristlets. And so most of the second half was her also demonstrating how she knits Fair Isle. And, while we were knitting, she made good use of the time, which I appreciated, walking around and helping, and also demonstrating things in the middle of the class. Most of my questions were around how to choose colors that are compatible and look good together. What I was doing was I was using a camera and going on the it's like a black and white setting called Tonal on my iPhone, and I was using that to judge which was darker and which was lighter. And apparently that is not infallible, and that the best thing to do is to squint at the yarns and use your own eyes and figure it out that way and separate them light to dark. Then she talked about the color wheel and which colors you can pair, and she had us take our colors that we brought with us and make a color wheel with them, and use that kind of as a starting point to choose the colors we were going to use for our wristlets. So, and at the end of the class, we all put our wristlets up and we took pictures of them, and we also talked about, how we felt about the results and what we could have done different, and like if things didn't come out well, why didn't they come out well? And she did this in a very professional and non-judgmental way, by the way. Nobody felt, or at least I don't think anybody felt singled out like they did poorly. Everybody was commended, and she really genuinely was excited and thrilled for everyone. But she also used the results to show, this is what happens when something's way too dark or, not compatible and things like that, which was very helpful. So looking at, not mistakes, but looking at people's projects and seeing how, if they had done things differently, how it might have turned out better or what they could have done differently. And I know that in one of my color selections, one of the colors I chose got completely lost, and how if I had chose a more bolder color, it might have looked really a lot nicer. So I really loved the class Saturday. Mary Jane Mucklestone is such a wonderful person. She's a great instructor. She made really good use of the time. So if you are considering ever at any event taking a class with her, I highly recommend it. I love color work. If you've never tried color work or stranded knitting, you really should. It's really fun. You you can knit you can knit with both colors in one hand or one in each hand. I like to knit with one in each hand. So what and I just kind of before internet I knit my first Fair Isle in or I should say color work sweater from Philosopher Wool by buying their book. And really, they showed you in the book how to hold the yarn, and I just held the yarn that way and knit away, and it really wasn't a big deal. So I think part of the problem is just getting out of your head and saying, "Oh, I can't knit with my left hand, or I can't throw with my right hand," and just saying I can do whatever, and just kind of have that child mindset, which is something actually that Mary Jane Mucklestone brought up. It's that, or was it Mary Jane or was it June that brought that up? I think it was June Hyatt actually mentioned that a child can pick up anything and learn it because they don't have any, things stuck in their head saying they can or can't. So you have to have the mindset of a child when you approach these new techniques, and really just know that as awkward as it might be in the beginning, it it just takes practice, and you could just get so much enjoyment out of it. So don't just stick to doing things that you know well. Really kind of expand your horizons and try different and new things as much as possible. And I highly recommend trying Fair Isle. I definitely, she gave us tricks too, which was really helpful. She gave us tricks on how to test the colors that you want to use without knitting a complete swatch. You can even just take the yarns and twist them together to see how they will look when they knit up, to get an idea of how they will look. Or you can knit I-cord in the color sequence that you plan on doing in your garment, and it's another good way to kind of see how your colors will look together and if they're compatible. So again, I mentioned in part one that this year at Vogue, it was the best classes I've ever taken anywhere, at Rhinebeck, at any other retreat, at any other um, knitting class I've ever taken, and I've taken some amazing classes with amazing teachers. But this year, by far, not just because of the teaching quality, but just because of my interest in the subject. So um, it was just, I loved it. I loved the classes. Um, I did break for lunch on Saturday, and I did not go out. I ate there at Vogue. They had kind of like a ready-made lunch place where you could pick up a lunch and eat it there. And we were supposed to meet up with Shirley Patton for the Design Along group at 12:45, and I went to Knitty City booth, and I waited till like 5 to 1, and I didn't see her. And I saw other people waiting, and honestly, it was so ridiculously crazy in the marketplace because, number one, because it was Saturday, and most people that are coming for one day are going to come on Saturday, but also because the classes were on break for lunch. So if people were taking a class on Saturday, this is when they were doing their shopping. Luckily, I had done my shopping. This is why I did the bulk of my shopping Friday night. And speaking of Friday night, after we did our shopping, which ended at like around 8, we kind of went back to our rooms and relaxed for a little while. And then we went right across the street to Junior's and had dinner there. We met some lovely ladies that just do all kinds of knitting retreats all over the world. And they were telling Sandy and I that we were missing out by not doing these knitting cruises and whatnot. So, um, I don't know. It put a bug in my head, but I don't know. I don't have that kind of money to go on cruises every year. I got a lot to fix still in my house. But anyway, um, after lunch, I went back to the second half of the class, and then Saturday night, um, most people were at the ballroom gala event. So we kind of went out and we decided we wanted to have a nice, relaxing dinner. And I picked Thai food. There's so many restaurants around there. You could choose just about anything. And one of the reasons I don't do the cocktail hour or the ballroom thing, which I kind of second guess myself sometimes, is because I want to go and taste all of these beautiful restaurants that are in New York City. I love trying different kinds of foods. I'm married to a chef, so it's just it's inbred in me, and he's kind of forced me to open my palate up and try different things. So we went out for this Thai food at this restaurant called Bangkok, and it was delicious. It was nice and quiet. We kind of timed it so that it would be after the shows started on Broadway, so there wouldn't be too much of a crowd, and it really paid off. And I had pad thai, and I had curry puffs, and Sandy had ginger chicken, I think. It was delicious. And then we went back to the room, exhausted, and we kind of talked about our day with each other and called it a night. Um, One of the things I noticed is we did walk around to see if knitters were hanging out knitting both nights, Friday and Saturday, thinking that not everybody's going to go to the gala or the cocktail hour, but we didn't see anybody hanging out in the lobbies or anything knitting, which kind of would have been fun, but we didn't see it. So Sunday, neither one of us had classes, and so we both kind of slept in. We originally were thinking we would go to Junior's for breakfast. Last year, when my husband came with me to New York City and stayed that weekend, we went to Junior's for breakfast, and it's amazing breakfast. I love their blintzes, but neither one of us was especially famished, and I didn't want to set the alarm Sunday because all of this was exhausting, and I really just wanted to sleep in one night. And so we opted to go down to like the gift shop where they had breakfast paninis and things that you could order. And I got the Starbucks coffee there and a panini. I think I had a bagel with cream cheese. And we decided we would do our shopping, some last minute shopping, and then go to Junior's for lunch. We were not able to, we could check out, we had to check out by noon, so we decided to leave our stuff in our room. We kind of packed it up. The market didn't open till 10, so we had a little time. And we kind of packed up our stuff a little. Then we went down to the market at 2, and I did a little more shopping. And I actually spent a lot of time at the booth for the Wool Fest, the ladies from Shetland. And oh my gosh, what a great what beautiful, friendly, lovely people. It was just such a pleasure they were so nice and kind. They gave away printed patterns of the Baba hat. And as soon as I finish this, the knitting on this needle, I'm going to show you this stuff. But they really were there to kind of promote the Wool Fest for this year, which is in September. And oh man, that if there is one thing I would want to go to, it would be that. I would really love to go to Shetland one time and visit the Shetland Islands and go to this Wool Fest. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Maybe if I win the lottery. I don't know if I can convince my husband to do a trip like that with me. He's Irish, not Scottish, and he's certainly not from any of those islands. So let me show you. So they were giving away buttons. These are the buttons from this year's Wool Week. I said Wool Fest, but it's Wool Week, the Shetland Wool Week. And then they also gave little stickers, Shetland Wool Week stickers. Isn't that adorable? But I was talking to the woman who ran the museum there. Her name was Clara. And she I guess her job, she said, here's the pamphlet, by the way, with the printed pattern that they were giving away for free. And as you know, this bobble hat is for free. You can download it. But it really gives you a little information about Wool Week. And they had books on the table. One I own already, so but the other two were there for just promotional purposes. This is the guide to the Shetland Museum, and the woman I was speaking with worked there. And this is a book they have published with stories from the people that have lived in Shetland, and they share their woolly stories and memories and family traditions. And it is, I read a couple of the stories last night, and it is just a great book. So she was kind enough to sell me both of these books. They really weren't selling anything, but she didn't want to have to travel back with them. They were trying to offload what they came with. So she sold me these at a little bit of a discount, plus, of course, no shipping. So I'm delighted. This is actually something they sell at the museum, and it's just a little bit about the items in the museum. I was so thrilled to get this. It's just really, really gorgeous. So this was so much fun. I was talking to these ladies for quite some time, and just was so glad I went back to their table the next day. When I went on Friday, even it was packed, and I just kind of walked by them. They also gave out this information about Hazel, who was on in the class on Friday that I took with June Hyatt. And I'm debating downloading her class on Fair Isle, which is $35 to download, which is not bad. So I might do that. I also won a prize on Sunday. I won this book. There was a woman there who was actually had a table. She was not a vendor. She was just spreading awareness to a program she has. And now for the life of me, Knitting with a Purpose. Knitting with a Purpose is a woman whose daughter, when she was a child, had heart problems and had to have numerous surgeries. And she noticed that the days were long and sometimes very difficult. And she developed a program where you go to the hospital and you teach patients how to knit, and you knit with them and you spend time with them, and how it makes the day go faster. So she has this book that she helped publish where it's designed to help you teach children how to knit. And so it's designed for, like, if you go to the hospital and you want to teach children to knit, it has some really good ideas for techniques. And the thing is that I had stopped by their booth, and Sandy and I both grabbed some information about this. It's something that Sandy, who has lost a lot of her family to cancer, has always been thinking about. And also, I teach knitting, and I was looking at this book, and I saw a lot of good ideas to use if I were teaching a class. And I almost bought the book, and then I found out later I won it in a raffle, so it was pretty cool. Oh, I forgot to show you. Here's my Fair Isle sample from the Fair Isle class. This is my wristlet. It's actually a little tight, and I didn't... Oh, yeah, see, I can't even get it over my wrist. Oh, no, I did it. Oh, I'm so tired. Here's you could see where I changed the rounds. So anyway, wow, it's really messy. I did terrible knitting. Look at that. This is a good example of how you don't want where you change your colors to look. Oh, and what I did here, and this is, I wasn't really, I think if I pulled all my yarn ends in, it would kind of go away, but you can see how there's lots of gaps. You see it, like, especially where the green is there. What you need to do when you're transitioning into colors to avoid this is you kind of need to wrap your yarns, and then I kind of weave my ends in as I knit. I didn't here, but you can also get rid of those gaps when you weave your ends in, to make sure you weave them going in the direction you would have been knitting them with. And it kind of gets, if you go and weave them in back on themselves, you'll widen that gap, just so you know. I think it's because I didn't weave in all these ends that all that is showing. Wow. So anyway, this is my color work. If you could see on this middle line here where the X is, you can kind of see I used a light purple here, and it doesn't really show up. I really should have used something a lot brighter and a little less subdued, because my X and my O are made of such dark colors that the light pink color in there, it just kind of gets lost. So what else? Do I have anything else? Okay, so I think it's time to show you stash. It's actually starting to get dark outside, so I hope the light is good. I had two things that I forgot to show you, or I didn't really forget. I was just trying to keep the part one shorter. But I did also buy some other things Friday night. I bought this soft Donegal. It's in a dark charcoal gray. Let me see if I can get the... Oh yeah, there's the true color. My son asked for a hat, scarf, and fingerless mitt set, and he wanted it in black. And rather than a complete black yarn, I saw this and I thought it would be perfect. So I bought some of that. I was thinking a nice cable pattern. I'll pick a nice cable pattern and knit a scarf for that. And then I'll try designing my own hat with a cable pattern. And then the mitts should be easy. I'll make them plain. And I wanted to say that I received some donations from people, including one just this weekend from some viewers that wanted to donate to help alleviate expenses for the podcast. And I wanted to thank you all very much and let you know that the money I received, I used to buy a prize for the next senior love along. And this is a really, really nice prize. It is a kit to make this cowl. It's a reversible cowl. It was from Feederbrook Farms, which is in Maryland, and this is a family-owned place. A woman and her husband, they have small children, are running this farm. So here's her pattern, and here's the kit for the pattern. And it's a beautiful, like, hand-spun morald yarn, and then her hand-dyed yarn from her farm. So this will be a prize for the senior love along. And thank you to the people that donated to make this possible. Here is information about the farm. It's a family-owned and operated, I'll read it to you. It's family-owned and operated, located in Maryland. They use sustainable farming practices and offer educational opportunities. Their products focus on breed-specific spinning fibers. This particular yarn is BFL, by the way. They also offer special luxury blends. The dyes are eco-friendly and organic. They have a fiber CSA, and they offer classes in spinning, sheep care, and fiber processing and purpose. They have BFL, Teeswater, Shetland, Cornwall, Corriedale, Romney, Black Welsh, Lincoln, Finn, Glenforest, Rambouillet, Leicester, and Leicester Longwool. That's a lot of different breeds. That's what breeds of sheep and display flock. So this is the information. Really lovely people, so I was happy to give them my business. And if this yarn is beautiful, and she had a sample of the cowl. So I think it's fairly simple that pretty much anybody can knit it up, and it's a really special prize for a really special contest. So that is what I'm finishing up Friday's purchases. So Sunday it was very, very quiet in the marketplace, and I did one last round. I know that even Friday night when I went to the Stephen B store or booth, it was so packed. He had a ton of hedgehog fiber yarns, and she is one of my favorite dyers. She's a little kind of very colorful. She Stephen West sells her yarns and designed a lot of shawls with her yarns. So she's really colorful, but I love her color sense, and I had belonged to her club a couple of years ago, and I have not ever received a color from her that I did not like. So I wanted to check it out, but it was just, you couldn't even get to the bins with her yarn in it on Friday. But Sunday it was really quiet. And he didn't have much left, and I guess that's the price you pay if you wait. But I did pick up 2 sock yarns from Hedgehog Fibers. I tried to get somewhat less wild colors because I have a lot of really bright and wild colors. So I got this speckled yarn, which is Peacock Tees. So you can see it's a nice creamy white with some speckles. And I got this one, which is called Winter Thaw. And it's actually very muted bright colors. So it's kind of like dirty colors. I don't know how else. It reminded me of Dirty Snow with colors underneath. But I think this will be a nice kind of neutral accent to go if I knit a shawl with multiple colors. I think this would be kind of a nice offsetting color. And so will this. So I got these two. I was so happy. I also found another farm, local farm that had a booth there. And you know what? It's a lot of money to have a booth at Vogue. So these small farms that are trying to make a living, they really need our business. So this one had beautiful yarns made up, but they also had some sample fibers, and they had a little out that you could touch. This is a new to me. It's 100%, 2 ounces of 100% Romney from a sheep called Eli. And it's Prodota Lana Sheep Farm. They have a website. There was a couple that were really, really wonderful, and I really can't wait to get this on the spindle as well. I can't wait to spin this up. Really, really fun. So that. The other thing I did was there was this yarn cupboard place. And she had a bin full of little mini skeins, and she basically said for $20, whatever you can fit in your hand. So I just got a bunch of colors. Here's a gray, because I do want to knit a sock blanket. Maybe I might start one this year or next, but here's a purple and a pink and another hot pink. And here's some more colors. And here's some more. Teal and a blue. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So what I found out, I managed to get like 9 in my hand. Sandy got a lot more. But what I found out is it was 20 for a handful or 2 per mini skein. So I could have gotten more if I paid for it per skein. But oh well, live and learn. And lastly, I went back to the Knit Circus. This was a real, Knit Circus yarns are not cheap. They're a little expensive, mostly because I think they use very luxurious bases. But the dye job, especially for their sock pairs, where they have the sock yarn split into 2 separate skeins or cakes, and they're identical, to do that is no small feat. So yes, their yarns are pricey, but you have to understand the amount of work that goes into it and the delicious bases they use. So I have a couple of pairs of socks knit up in their bases, especially in Greatest of Ease. It's an amazing sock yarn. It has not pilled yet. It has not worn out. It's really good. So I've wanted to try one of their Impressionist colors. I really kind of loved how it was knit up, and I think in part one I put a picture of me and Jala, and she's wearing one of the Impressionist colorways in the scarf she's wearing. But this is Sorat. I don't know how to pronounce this artist's name. And it's Impressionist. You can see, so it's $47 for a pair of socks. That's a lot, but I hope you understand that this is a luxurious treat. I'm going to take it out so you can see it better. This will make a lot of noise. Actually, no, I'm not, because it's tied in a knot. But hopefully you can appreciate the colors. Oh, there, that's better. That's a little better. I love pink. I love blues. And I love the little bit of green in there. And I can't wait to knit this up. This will definitely be a pair of socks this year. And that, my friends, is it for Vogue Knitting Live. I hope you've enjoyed my chats. Sandy and I had a wonderful trip home. We had to wait a while for our car. It snowed on Sunday. And Sandy bought me this to thank me for driving. It's a Ravelry water bottle, which came in really handy. What I really, it doesn't seem like much, but they have water coolers all over the place during Vogue Knitting Live. Thank you, Vogue, for keeping us hydrated and not making us pay $5 for a bottle of water all weekend. So I was able to go to the water coolers and keep filling up my water bottle and stay hydrated over the weekend. It's something you don't think about, or maybe you take for granted, but if you go to like Rhinebeck, there's no place to get water there. There's a few water fountains, I think. I'm not sure. So you have to bring bottles of water or go really thirsty. But Vogue was very considerate. I mean, like, they were all over the place so that you could stay hydrated. And so thank you for that, Vogue. The only thing Vogue is second to is Rhinebeck. But as far as classes go, I think they have a much better assortment of classes. I had so much fun this year. I think it was my favorite year so far. The only thing I missed was it was only me and Sandy, and a lot of our knitter friends that often go were not there this year, and we missed them. I missed having my husband there, which was fun last year. But as far as the people I met and the classes I took, it was hands down, this was the best year ever. I missed Bijou Basin yarns. They weren't there this year. I was kind of sad that I couldn't find a sweater's worth of yarn that I liked from Jill Draper. But we'll see, maybe sometime in the future. So this is it for Vogue Knitting Live. I'll call it episode 58, part 2. Thank you for joining me. I hope you didn't mind all the talking so much. I will see you in a couple of weeks.